Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We are delighted to have Gino Pack, our Director of Project Teams, with us. Gino will be presenting on Troubleshooting Business Central with Azure Application Insights. And as a reminder, we are recording this webinar, and we will post it to our on-demand webinar library for you to review again or share with anyone. And you can find our library under our resources tab on our website, and that's inovia.com/events. We encourage you to ask questions during our presentation, so please feel free to type them into the questions box, and we will answer them at the end of our session. So now I'm going to turn it over to Gino to kick off our presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Angie. Hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Happy Wednesday. So today I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be presenting on Troubleshooting Business Central with Application Insights. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Gino Pack. I'm the Director of Project Teams here at Inovia Consulting. I lead all of our project teams on Business Central implementations with our customers. I am Business Central certified, and I've been working with Nav and Business Central for quite a bit now. Just a little bit of my ERP experience. I started with Nav all the way back when it was on version 3.7, and as an end user, I worked my way up from being a user to a director of IT, and then the ERP and administrator and business analyst. And during that time, I worked from version 3.7 all the way up to Nav 2018. And then when I came over to the partner side, I came over to Inovia about 3 years ago as a project manager. Started working with Business Central then, and then mid last year, I took the new position as a director of project teams. So I'm very excited to be here. I love being able to work with our customers on their implementations and their unique scenarios. Any of their unique scenarios that they're encountered with, and it just makes it a very fun partnership. So let's go ahead and dive in here. So today, what we're going to look at is we're going to talk a little bit about what is Application Insights, why is it important, especially when you're on Business Central. We'll do an overview of what information is sent from Business Central to Application Insights and how you can view the data within Application Insights to detect any anomalies in your Business Central environment. So what is Application Insights? So Application Insights is a performance management tool that's part of Azure Monitor. So it's actually not a Business Central ERP product. It's a product of Azure, and it's used for monitoring your live applications. So, it's used heavily in mobile applications, web applications, websites, and what it can be used for is it's used to pull in data as users are using your application. So you as an administrator can, take that data and put it into your various analysis tools such as, Power BI, Jupyter Notebooks, your own custom solution, whatever you need to be able to analyze and view the performance of your data. So you can have very much a proactive approach to performance issues and bugs other than a reactive approach to it. So, as I mentioned a little bit on the previous slide, the question is how do you use Application Insights? There's three main areas. You use it to monitor, you use it to detect and diagnose, and you use it to build, measure, and learn. And what we mean by those three things is under monitoring, you can view the load, the responsiveness, and the performance of the customizations and the data in your Business Central environment. You can also use it to detect and diagnose failures, issues, exceptions, complaints from users on performance, and you can use the data that comes out of Application Insights and the telemetry that comes out of there to get to the root performance issues that your users are experiencing or can be experiencing. And then building, measuring, and learning. So what you can do with this is you can also write your own custom telemetry to be able to send information from your own Business Central customizations or your own Business Central applications to be able to monitor how they're using. And you can also measure how each pieces of your application, is being used. So the big question is, so why application insight? What makes it important today? Let's go back a little bit in time. Let's think Business Central on-premise, or even back when it's called NAV. Back when the on-premise days, you had full internal access to your entire stack, okay? So your entire, from the network all the way up to the application for a full on-premise environment, you had full access. And if your business had network monitoring tools, those tools can be used to monitor your environment and detect anomalies. Infrastructure, and then you've got infrastructure as a service. While some of the infrastructure moved to external, so from your network to your OS, is outside your control, there's still monitoring tools out there that help monitor those specific areas for anomalies. As you get into platform as a service, so your network all the way up to your runtime. So if you're using like Azure SQL to run your Business Central on-premise environment, or your NAV on-premise environment, from your network all the way up to the runtime, is in the control of Microsoft or your data warehouse at that point. Your application, your data still resided with you, and you still had direct access, to that data. Now, when we get into SaaS and Business Central, go to my next slide. We get into Business Central SaaS. You're talking now an application that fully resides in Microsoft's in a multi-tenant environment. By multi-tenant, that you're in a cluster with other customers using Business Central. So having access, direct access from to your network, storage, OS, runtime, data just doesn't exist anymore, for obvious security reasons. So you don't have that, direct access to your SQL database to run SQL Profiler. You don't have that direct access to the application server to check on resources. The monitoring that was there before is just not possible anymore. So that's where application insights comes into play, is that now Microsoft is building in telemetry into the system for you to be able to monitor your environment for performance anomalies, just as if you were able to do it with an on-premise environment. So how does BC come into play? How is that telemetry set up? So Business Central emits telemetry for events during operations and tenants and your personal and your PTE or your extensions. So you have the ability to, you have the ability to monitor these events that are taking place in the environment. It will give you, as the Business Central admin or the developer, a look into the activities that are happening and general health of the operations that affect performance in your environment. And telemetry is taken on two different levels. So the first one is at the tenant level. Telemetry is admitted for the tenant for tenant-wide operations. So for example, publishing an extension to an environment, installing an application, adding and removing users. Those are examples of long-running SQL queries, job queue failures, and successes. Those are tenant-wide telemetry events that are happening in your environment that are emitted to business or to application insights. Then you can have your extension level events or telemetry, and those are fully customized by you. You can create the events that are fired off and sent into telemetry with your own per tenant extensions, and you just need to add your application insights ID to your app.json file in your Business Central customization, so you can emit these events to Business Central, so you can have insights into how your extension is performing in the Business Central environment and how users are using it. So let's take a look really quickly at some of the available telemetry that is in the Business Central environment. So I have a couple links here that are going to take me directly to the Microsoft website. So available telemetry. So the telemetry is all available here on Microsoft's website under docs.microsoft.com. In the email that we'll send out after this webinar, we'll make sure we include all the links for you, so you have the ability to see what's out there and be able to play with it, set it up yourself. So the various different pieces of telemetry that it's out there, and it also explains whether it's support in SaaS, on-premise, or extension level support. So as you scroll down this, it gives you detail on events that can get fired off from, authorization to your database lock timeouts to sending emails out of the system and detecting failures, field monitoring on sensitive fields in your environment, job queue. I know this is a big one, because there is nothing really built into Business Central to alert you when a job queue or an automated job fails. That telemetry gets emitted into application insights for you to be able to detect that. Long-running SQL queries, page views, which also gives you the performance on report generation. So there's just so much, there's so many different pieces of telemetry that are emitted out of the Business Central environment, and the list keeps growing. With every release of Business Central, Microsoft is adding more and more telemetry events for you to be able to track and analyze and monitor your Business Central environment. Pop back over to the, and then how are the telemetries, the pieces of telemetry being sent get identified in application insights? So each one of the items that we talked about are just categories of types of telemetry, pieces of telemetry that get sent out from Business Central to application insights. Well, those are monitored with event IDs, okay? Very similar to the way you'd be looking at the event viewer in your Windows Server environment. Telemetry is pretty much, is very close to being the same exact, same exact thing. So as Business Central emits telemetry, it categorizes the telemetry as an event ID and the area of the telemetry that's being sent out. So we had talked about email. Here's the event ID, as well as, it's under the email area, and this specific event ID is associated to a failed sent email, okay? And if I scroll down to the various areas, you have permissions, like I said, you have client events such as page views, so a page was opened, job queue lifecycle events, so you can see when a job starts to the time it ends and if it finished properly. Those are big ones. Extension lifecycle, so when you're publishing extensions into your Business Central environment, those also have events assigned to them. Company life cycle, so you can see the creation, change, copy, deletion of companies in your Business Central environment. So there's just so many different little pieces of events, little pieces of telemetry, like I said, that get emitted to your Business Central environment. So I'll just scroll through some of these really fast so you can see them. But like I said, we'll include the links here for you, so you have the ability to, to look this up, when you want to look this up on your own. So we're going to pop back over to my slideshow here. So how do you get started? Setting it up is fairly simple. It is not a difficult process, especially if you're in a SaaS environment. So the first step is you start in Azure, and I'm gonna, in a moment, we're gonna go ahead and jump into a demo here, and I will give a little bit of an example of how to set up a application insights environment. So to start off in Azure, what you need to do is you need to create an application insights environment. You'll pull your connection string, which is given to you when you create the environment. Then in Business Central on-premise, you can associate your application insights connection with your Business Central service tier via your Business Central admin snap-in that's on your Business Central server. In Business Central SaaS, you would just simply associate your connection string to your Business Central environment in the BC Admin Center, which I'll demo here in just a second. So getting it started, once the key is in, your service will need to be restarted. Once your Business Central service is restarted, then your telemetry data starts coming out of Business Central into your application insights environment. And from there, you can do whatever you want with the data. You can look at it in KQL, which is the language that, the query language that's used when, when looking at the raw data in application insights. You can extract the raw data and put it into something else. You can use Power BI to develop reports. You can use Jupyter notebooks to help profile performance issues in your environment. And then you have automation solutions like integrating into Microsoft in Power Automate or Azure notifications to be able to notify you and key users when there's a performance hit on your environment or when a performance hit is detected. So the point is the raw data will start emitting itself into Business Central, and from there you'll be able to to move forward with analyzing your environment. So if you're a starter and you first want to start using this, there's a website, Microsoft, and that's where I've got a lot of the queries that I'm going to be demonstrating in today's webinar, and one of the Power BI reports that I'm going to demo today comes directly from Microsoft. What they've done is they've created starter queries and starter Power BI templates that can get you started with analyzing telemetry in your environment. And then you can branch off from there and create your own. Create your own thing. So the short URL is ak.ms/bctech. And from there, I can pop over to my web browser really fast. From here, it takes you to a GitHub repository, which then you can go ahead and clone into your environment to be able to access the data that's in it. And from here, you can go ahead and see the samples for various areas of Business Central, but we're going to be focusing on application insights. And from application insights, you can take a look at all the various tools that they've given you to begin with. So even if I pop into Power BI here, and I look at the sample M queries for performance. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. Power BI reports. And here are some starter reports that Microsoft gives. One is a performance report and one is an error report. So you can monitor performance issues and errors in your environment. Another area is the sample KQL queries that you can run within application insights, along with an explanation of what KQL is. Microsoft in Docs does have a lesson on writing in KQL. It's fairly simple. I'm not a DBA, but I was able to learn a little bit, at least enough to get the information flowing that I wanted to see out of application insights. So KQL does take a little bit to learn, but it's not tough to learn if you are fairly technical. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and jump into the hopefully the more deeper meat of the presentation today. So today we're going to go ahead and jump into how to enable application insights. We're going to be focusing mainly on SaaS today, but setups are fairly similar as in on-premise. You're just going to be doing it on your Business Central administration, your Business Central service tier server instead of Business Central admin environment like in SaaS. But we're going to get application insights enabled in SaaS, and then we're going to just take a quick run through in a demo environment that I have on how to analyze, what the telemetry looks like as it's being emitted out of Business Central. So let's go ahead and jump into application insights. So I'm popping into my Azure environment, so portal.azure.com. If you don't have a subscription, you have to go ahead and create an Azure subscription. If your company already has one, you just need to be authorized to be able to create resources in an Azure subscription. But creating an application insights environment is fairly easy. From your Azure portal, you can just look for the application insights resource or service. It'll bring you to the page that you're seeing right now. I have various application insights demo environments in here right now, and you can create as many as you need. You can have one application insights environment per Business Central environment that you have, or you can have Business Central emit telemetry to just one application insights environment, and then use your various tools to slice and dice the data to identify what environment you're emitting data to. So to create an environment, it's fairly simple. You just go ahead and select the Create button. It's going to bring you to a page where you can select your subscription and your resource group. You can go ahead and name your environment. So I'm going to just do Gino BC SaaS You can go ahead and choose your region, or you can leave it to where, you know, it recommends it. And then, you know, you can go ahead and change anything else that you may need to change or leave it as defaults, but I'm typically going to leave it as default. So what's going to happen now is that it's going to validate that all the information I input is correct, and then I'm going to go ahead and create my environment. And then Azure is going to go ahead and deploy it. It'll take just a second here, but while, yep, and it's done. So I can go right to the resource, or I can go back to my application insights service, and then you can see that let's refresh here. I wonder why it's not showing up. There it is. Okay, so there's my Business Central Gino BC SaaS application insights environment. I'll go ahead and select that. And from here, I'm now within my application insights for Gino's BC SaaS, but I still need to connect it to Business Central, okay? And that's where the connection string comes in that I mentioned in my previous presentation. So there is the connection string here. What you do is you just need to copy this connection string. We're going to go over to your Business Central environment now. So I'm going to go to my Business Central Admin Center for SaaS. I'm going to open up the environment that I want to associate my application insights ID with. And
Hey,
as
Gino,
you can see, yes.
could you zoom in on the browser and make it larger? They're saying that it's super small.
That better?
Raise your hand on the webinar control panel if that looks better for you.
Awesome.
Yep, thank you.
Alrighty, thank you everybody. Appreciate the feedback. Okay, so I'm in my Business Central Admin Center now, and from here I have, you know, my different options to manage my specific environment. But there is a setting here to where I could define my application insights connection string. So I'll just select define. I'll enable application insights, paste my connection string, and hit save. Now what's going to happen is my Business Central environment is going to restart, because it does need to restart in order to enable application insights. As you can tell, as you can see, it's preparing here. So as soon as it's done, the state will be active. And now within the next, you know, I'd say 10 minutes or so, data will start flowing into Business Central based on how the users are interacting with the system and the performance that's coming out of it. Now that my environment is created, just out of sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and use a demo environment that I've been using to sort of build up data over time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my B application insights environment. And from here, I can start looking at the raw telemetry that I have that's coming out of Business Central. Now, I can do something as simple as, you know, writing a quick KQL query to just give me the last 100 records in the last 24 hours. So I can just do something as simple as this one right here where it's the traces. You know, traces take the last 100 records and sort them by the timestamp. And then you can see that the raw telemetry is then emitted, or it's gathered from the application insight storage area and shown here. And there's different operations that you can see that have been done in the environment. Some web service calls, some reports being run. If I want to go ahead and drill in on any of this, I can go ahead and drill down into a telemetry event. And then I can view the custom dimensions. Now the custom dimensions are custom pieces of information that the Business Central core application is sending to Application Insights. So this data is unique to Business Central. And you can see that, you know, I can identify the tenant that it's coming from, the object and the object type that's being used, the client type that's used to be connected to the, you know, to process this event. I'm going to zoom in here again. I'm sorry, everybody. I can see the company it's coming from, the version, you know, the event ID that I identified, you know, that I had identified in earlier on in the slides. And then I can even see, what, how much SQL information was actually being read here. And then everything else is pretty standard information that comes directly, that's included in, application insights. So that is just a quick overview of raw data. Now here's one that's pretty interesting that I do want to go ahead and show you really fast, is your long-running, SQL queries. What's pretty cool with this is that I can actually drill into the custom dimensions on this longer query, see exactly where it's coming from, the AL stack, so the code that was actually trying to run when this long-running, SQL query actually ran. And then I can even actually grab the SQL statement that was being ran in on SQL Server in the back end. So that's just some of the data that's coming out of the telemetry here. As I mentioned before, Microsoft does give you some sample tools, and I apologize, I can't zoom in on this screen, but I will copy some of this to application insights. But here are some of the KQL samples, so you can actually start digging into the raw data in a you can dig into some of the raw data and learn how to write queries. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this simple job queue finished, KQL query here. I'll pop back over to my application insights environment, and I'll paste the query here. So now what I'm looking at is I'm going to look at all the traces where the timestamp is over 60 days for a specific event ID. And if I go ahead and find this event ID on the list of events here, I'm going to be looking at my job queue entry finished events within Business Central, Business Central Application Insights. So if I go ahead and run this query, and I'm actually just going to run it for the last 12 hours instead of 60 days. So it'll actually run fairly quickly. And as you can see here are all of the job queues that ran in the last 12 hours along with their finishing times. I can go ahead and drill down into the custom dimensions where it'll show me the actual, the object that was ran and the job queue result as well. If I want to look at something else, there is some other queries here, like here, let's see. I can look at permission changes. Here's another query right here. I can look at to see what permissions are assigned to a user. So if I just paste this query in here over the last, 24 hours, I can run this. So I've got no permission changes within the last 24 hours in my environment. So what I'll do is I'll go in the last 30 days now, and I'll run this. And here are the permission changes that were done in the last 30 days. Now, you can't see the actual user that the permissions were assigned to or who changed it. That's because Microsoft does have data privacy in mind when it comes to application insights. So it doesn't violate any data specific laws with the telemetry data that's released into application insights. So it's never going to release customer financial company information. It's just going to give you the information you need to be able to track down your performance anomalies in your environment. So the next thing I want to quickly take a look at is our Power BI dashboard. Okay, so Microsoft, what they do in the BC Tech samples is they do provide some sample Power BI dashboards that you can use to analyze the data that's in your environment. They provide an error report dashboard, and they provide a performance report dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and demo off the performance report dashboard. And that's this dashboard here. So I pre-filled it with data just because the initial data run takes a bit of time to do. But setting it up is easy. When you first open the environment, you're asked to give several different parameters, okay? If you are a partner or a service provider that manages multiple Active Directory tenants, you need to enter the Active Directory tenant ID here. If you have multiple environments within one application insights resource, you would need to enter the specific environment that you want to analyze here, a start date and an end date to the data that you want pulled into the Power BI report, and then you're going to enter your app ID. And the app ID is simple to get. Within Application Insights, under the API access key, we'll go ahead and leave that. There's your application ID. What you'll do is you'll copy that application ID, put it into the Power BI report, and click OK. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go in and it's going to pull all the data from your Business Central environment, or your Application Insights environment that you've identified and filtered down based off of the criteria that's been entered. Now, the performance of report has multiple dashboards listed here, from analyzing the reports that are in your environment and see what their average runtime was. You can go down to, okay, what is the type of client was being used, what type of report is being used. You can analyze it over time, and you can also analyze your performance on your reports over time. Page views is another good one that I like, because a frequent complaint that I've seen on the user side is how long it takes some pages to open in Business Central. And the long-running pages, or the page views functionality over time it shows you an average runtime of your pages. So if I'm trying to be proactive in my environment and monitor how pages are opening, or how long it's taking pages to open, looking at the list of pages along with the average, sorted by the average runtime, I can see that some of these pages are taking quite a long time to open. So I would want to investigate that and figure out why. Why would it be taking an average of 5 seconds to open up the sales journal page in Business Central, or why is it taking 4 seconds to open up the accountant role center in Business Central? So those are some things that I would want to investigate. And you can investigate to as far as, okay, well, let's take a look at the browsers of the data that's being pulled into Business Central. So look, we have somebody that is on Chrome 86, okay? Could that have an effect on how long it's taking some pages to open in my environment, because it's on an older version of a web browser? So maybe I need to go and make sure that all my web browsers are up to date for all of my client users. Web service calls. So calls coming into and out of the environment is another area that you can analyze, and you can even analyze, what the response code is on some of the web service calls and how often are they happening. Okay, so I just filtered down onto the 404 error. I could filter around onto the, on the 422 error over the last 4 weeks and see that there were 36 here. So, the Power BI reports that Microsoft gives is just a sample. It makes it very efficient to get started with analyzing web service. Database locks is another one. I'm going to pop over to that one really fast, and you can analyze the the object type that was causing the lock. I'll just go ahead and select the table, the object that was causing the lock, and then you can also look at the AL stack traces and SQL statements that are coming from the various locks as well. So it's a pretty cool and powerful report. Pop over to long-running SQL queries as another one you can start analyzing if I want to look at a specific, a specific object in my environment. So, let's filter down to code units. Okay. And just a posting one. And I can take a look at, how long, the total amount of time, out of three, out of 3 runs for a specific SQL statement, I can see that it's got a total time of 9,635 milliseconds. So so just those are some powerful things. I'll go ahead and pop over to table here because that's I wonder why I can't. Let's see, pages. Wonder why the data's gone there. Sorry about that. Can we do this a second? I want to be able to show you some, like a table here. Okay, so here we go. So another thing about working in Business Central that's different than working in old classic nav is you have this idea of extensions. So you're extending your Business Central environment. You're not modifying the base application or the base Business Central code or the base Business Central tables directly anymore. You are extending upon them. Now, the way that looks on the SQL backend is that it creates additional tables. So if you extended the item table and added 5 new custom fields to the item table, on SQL, it's added as another custom table. But when you open up the item card on the client side from a page view, what it's doing is it's joining those tables together. So that could obviously possibly cause a performance issue if you have more joins happening to a specific table within your Business Central environment. So when looking at this particular demo environment, I look at this and I see that there's 8 joins on this specific item ledger entry table. Okay, so how many extensions are actually touching this table, and can I minimize that? Okay, that's if you have multiple extensions from app source in your environment, probably not. But if I have 5 different per tenant extensions, which are customizations that either me or my partner have written, maybe it's best to look at those and say, okay, should all my table fields be in one extension to decrease the number of joins that are in my environment, thus increasing the performance on some of these tables, so it's not taking literally 8 tables on the back end and joining them together to display the data that you want. So that's just a piece of information that you can look at using just a simple Power BI report and application insights. Alrighty. So what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and open it up to questions now, if anybody has any.
Thanks, Gino. No questions have come through. We'll give it a few moments. So if you have any questions that you want to ask Gino, now is the time to do so. All right, it doesn't look like we have any questions for you, Gino.
Okay.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for attending our webinar today, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for taking the time to join us. Thank you, Gino, for the presentation. It was very well informative.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I really appreciate it.
Be sure to check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's inovia.com/events. We also have our training workshop page up at inovia.com/workshops. We have a variety of workshops to fit your role, so you can check out the ones that are right for you, and if they're not up on a designated date, you can go in and request a particular workshop. And have you heard our latest Inovia Conversation podcast? We have a library of podcast episodes for you to listen to, and you can learn more on our podcast page, and that's inovia.com/podcast. So browse through our selection and subscribe so you'll get notified when those new episodes air. And don't forget about our customer conference page at inovia.com/conferences. Our customer conference is coming up on May 4th and 5th at the University of Notre Dame. This is a free event for you to attend, so make sure you read up on all the details and register today so you can come and meet the Inovia team, our ISVs, and our clients. All right, well, we thank you for taking the time to join us. Thank you again, Gino, for the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you soon on another Anovia webinar. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.